Hey, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this, our first inaugural Farm Talk. So for those who didn't see it the first time, this is our opportunity to develop the expertise of fruit and vegetable growers in the region by sharing from some of our most experienced producers here. And so from left to right on my screen, I have Rodney Maring of Blue Lizard Farms, Ray Johnson of Custom Gardens, and Rob Hawley of Hawley Family Farms. And so what we are going to do today, first of all, if there's anyone in the community, the group who wants to ask questions, we're going to be very flexible about that. But we are just going to get started sharing some experiences and some best practices regarding growing in the high desert. And so first, I thought maybe since this is the first one that everyone will be here, if the three of you could give just a short introduction, where you are and what you grow. Go, Rodney, Ray, and Robert.
I'm located in Caliente, Nevada, about 150 miles northeast of Las Vegas. We grow, we started our farm based on greens, so spinach, spring mix, a mustard mix is typically what we grow there in the greens. But then we grow carrots, beets. We got greenhouses with tomatoes, all different varieties of greenhouse tomatoes, and many other root crops. We got melons this year, watermelons that did well. Zucchini, they're pulling off about 125 pounds of zucchini every other day.
Wow, sounds fantastic. Some zoodles. Right?
Oh, okay. I'm located in Silver Springs, Nevada, which is approximately 50 miles southeast of Reno. Been here for, last time I looked, it was 36 years. I have to check on that. We have 7 hoop houses, grow ginger and turmeric, your lettuces, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, melons, cantaloupe. Oh, what else? Green beans when they'll grow. Not this year. They're not doing well. That's about where I'm at.
Too hot for that. And Rob?
My name is Rob Hawley. I'm the organic coordinator at the Desert Farming Initiative, working with a program promoting certified organic farming. I also, along with my family, run Hawley Family Farms. We're in Dayton, Nevada. We raise cattle, sheep, pigs. We put up grass hay in Washoe Valley, and then we have a market farm here in Dayton.
You can go up.
Where we grow a lot of vegetables that we market locally through the Great Basin Community Food Co-op, and also primarily during the summer at the Carson Farmers Market. Peppers, tomatoes, beans, squash, a lot of different varieties of greens. There's other things out there too. There's ginger growing, thanks to Ray's advice and counsel. It's doing well. And we grow primarily in high tunnels. We've been well into the low 100s, up to 113 for almost 2 weeks. So the high tunnels offer some protection from that harsh, dry desert climate.
Great. And I see we have a bunch of people signed in from the Nevada Farm Network. And so I do want to start and just say, if anyone has a question to begin with, would absolutely like to have you drive the conversation. That's what we're here for, answering your questions as people interested in production. No one Yes, so definitely can post in the chat, or if you feel like unmuting and coming into the conversation. Great too.
I just want to apologize. Sorry, I was caught off guard. Anybody
No
with the
worries, yeah.
yellow shirt is information for the locals. So
We are very grateful you're able to make it. And
and
despite
I couldn't find the mute, so I'm glad somebody muted me. So
well,
I'll
while
shoot. Go ahead.
Sorry.
I'll shoot off a question if I can.
brilliant, thank you.
So we're just starting our farm outside of Las Vegas and Kyle Canyon, very rocky up there, and we're building our soil primarily using what's coming from our goat barn, so the used hay and manure, and then adding horse manure on top. We're doing about 12 inches. Is there anything else you guys would do to start a soil? Because right now it's just rocks and dirt. There is no organic matter.
Here in Dayton, we've, go ahead, Rodney.
oh no, you please go ahead.
We're up to 2% organic matter in our soil. That was last year's soil test. So we almost have none. It's just it's a finer version of where you're at. We are because we're farther out in the alluvium. I'm familiar with your area. You have a lot of DG and rock and sand, and that's really what we have farmed in. We add compost every time we plant something new, and we're up to 2%. So there's so much lack of organic material in the soil. The one thing I would encourage you to do is annual regular soil testing so that you can maintain balanced nutrition in your soil. We have horses. We've used a lot of horse manure. It's high in potassium. It can be salty. And so you can create problems. It doesn't necessarily create problems. I'm not saying that it will, but you want to monitor your soil as you add the manures to make sure that you maintain a balance. But otherwise, that's what we do. We add compost. We've added manure. We have a 90 and 120 day rule with organic agriculture as far as harvest and using raw manure. And we just work outside of that window. We've used a lot of manure, and that's a good source. And then the soil tests will tell you if you need to add some different nutrients in a more elemental form.
Got it. We had our first soil test done, and it was 0 nitrogen, 0 organic matter, mineral rich. So
for sure.
Yeah, and what I would add to that is if you could turn your manure and whatever manure you get and materials into compost and make it a hot compost, because you can build a pretty horrific seed bed of weeds by just adding raw manure, and you'll be fighting it for years. I'm still fighting it from when I added fresh manures. So that's what I'd recommend is what was recommended? Obviously nitrogen and organic matter, but what else was recommended on your soil test?
it was pretty much just those two. Potassium was good, but nitrogen, like I said, 0. Organic matter was 0. So it was just pretty much build the organic matter and then test again next year.
What was your pH?
It was I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a real important number, right? Because pH, obviously ideal growing is 6.5, and we'll always have a challenge to try to get to that. And so check your pH, and I'll be willing to bet you'll need to add probably 600 pounds of elemental sulfur to your soil to get a 1 point pH change. And that just makes the nutrients that are there and the nutrients that you're adding more available to the plants. Otherwise, you could be adding nutrients and the chemistry is going to change to the point where the nutrients are there, but they're just not in the right chemical form for the plant. And so that's the importance of pH.
Got it.
Kyle?
Yeah.
One thing I might add too, being up in Kyle Canyon, where you've got a lot of ponderosa pines, pine needles and the compost made from pine needles are more acidic. So that's a good source of material to add to your soil is piles of your neighbor's pine needles that are composted. We have a compost manufacturer here in Carson City. They do a lot of work in the Tahoe Basin, and so their compost tends to be slightly on the acidic side, or you can ask for the compost that's from the Tahoe Basin. But where you're at in Kyle Canyon, making use of those pine needles is a good way to lower the pH of your soil.
I'm planting a bunch of pine trees on my property as well. So
Yeah.
over the years, hopefully it'll work itself out.
Kyle, this is Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Question for you. What is your water source?
We have a well that we're doing at 650 feet right now.
Okay, plenty of water?
Plenty of water,
Okay. One
and
other
it's hard
way,
water.
one other way to build organic matter and get nitrogen into your soil is a cover crop. But you've got to have water in order to get it to grow. And I'm speaking from experience. We cleared sagebrush off this land 36 years ago, and we have a water bill, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. But we've used manure. We've used compost over the years, and we've used in isolated, well, I call it isolated area, a hoop house. I grow a cover crop and till it in. I cut it and then till it in for the green matter and, of course, the nitrogen fixing of the roots. But you have to water it, and that's always here in Nevada's. That's always a question of whether you got enough water or can afford it.
Right now, we cover crop in just our rows. So just on the row where there's nothing growing and we're not planting for a little bit of time, we'll throw some clover or buckwheat down and get it to go.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for the discussion, the question, Kyle. Does anyone else from the group have a question for our farm talkers?
Anne's got her hand up.
Okay. You should be able to.
Sorry about that, Jordan. You probably couldn't see me. I was doing some reading because I like growing aromatic plants and was reading up on yarrow and saw there was an article I had read about using yarrow as a cover crop. And I was curious if anybody here has tried using yarrow as a cover crop, since it does grow pretty well here in Nevada.
I have to admit, I don't know what yarrow is. Forgive me.
We
It's
have yarrow growing here around and about the yard and different places. We've grown it before. I've not heard of it used as a cover crop. That's interesting. I'd be cautious of letting it flower and go to seed because it is pretty prolific and it spreads. It's a lovely plant and the pollinators like it. And so I would think that timing it to keep those umbral type seed heads from developing would be pretty important. But if you get it before it makes seed, there's a lot of root, there's a lot of biomass in the leaf, and so there's a lot of organic material there. I can see that working. Just don't let it go to seed.
Well, personally, if I ever go the route of becoming an essential oil maker, I could cut it as soon as it gets a flower and make essential oils with it. But thank you for that
Right.
information.
You bet.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a balance there with cover crops that are prolific enough to generate that biomass, but easy enough to maintain from spreading. I was reading about vetch being used as nitrogen fixer and real big producer. Do any of you have experience of that and tips for how to make sure it doesn't get out of control?
We've used vetch in our garden in a mix of peas and oats and vetch. And we also have it in our hay fields, the native meadowgrass in Washoe Valley. It's a native there, and it plugs up hay equipment. That's a whole nother deal. It's a viney mat of vegetation. But it's the same thing. If you catch it in the early to mid bloom stage and it doesn't produce a lot of seed, it pretty much grows as an annual. And so you can use vetch and incorporate it. It is a legume, so it fixes nitrogen. Pollinators and bumblebees absolutely love it. It's just important to keep it from going to seed. And also, I don't know the mechanism anymore, but it is toxic in large quantities, the seeds to horses and cattle and other animals. If they eat too much of it, the seeds can cause trouble in their tummies. So that's something to remember if you're using vetch, but it is an outstanding cover crop if it's not allowed to fully flower and make and go to seed. And it's very, very pretty.
I want to make sure everyone notices Kelly shared the Plant Material Center cover crop research. This is specific to Fallon. Oh, wow. Extensive report. So if you are looking for some technical information about how people have used cover crops in the region, be sure to check that out. Do we have any other questions from the group?
I got one comment to add to
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
Rob. Do not let your cover crop blossom. And I'm paying the price for letting that blossom this year. I could not catch it in time. And my cover crop keeps coming up. I don't know whether that's a good thing or bad thing, but it seems like that adds to the situation of weeding. The cover crop grows extremely well, especially when it blossoms and reseeds itself. I've weeded and weeded and weeded, and I still got it coming up. So that's one thing to really look at is catching that before it blossoms.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been doing the last couple of years in an acre field that I have that I'm trying to prep for other vegetables, let's just say. And I just grow alfalfa and I keep it mowed. You got to wait for alfalfa to get to 6 to 8 inches in order to gain enough energy so that you don't deplete the root system. But I just keep it mowed and I let the cuttings lay, and the alfalfa works its way through. And by the end of the year, I've got 2 inches of organic matter sitting on top of the soil, and the alfalfa poking through. And then it when it dies back for the winter, or I shouldn't say dies back, goes dormant. And by the time we get through the winter and into the spring and the alfalfa starting to poke up again, most of that 2 inches mat has been devoured by my microorganisms, and I just keep doing that over and over again. Um, and so it's really been beneficial to this field and increasing its organic matter and also fixing nitrogen at the same time. So when I'm ready to pull a portion of it out, I can it's just basically ready to go to plant. So I'll do a till and kill the alfalfa and then put down a wheat barrier and plant in the wheat barrier, and it's been working really well.
Can I ask when you guys would recommend starting that process for like getting, because we have bare land basically that we're getting ready to put into production. So when would you plant like a cover crop to start the process?
If I were to start my farm over again, I would spend the first 2 years in an alfalfa cover crop and just how I described, just to condition my soil.
But what time of year? Like, do you plant it in the spring
Oh,
or?
it depends on the cover crop. So if it's like a grain crop, you could plant that in the fall or early spring, late winter. Alfalfa, you want to plant when you're past your frost date in the spring.
Thank you.
Rob or Ray, do you have, I know Rob, you talked about alfalfa before. Anything you'd like to share?
You know, our first market garden at my grandpa's place was in an established old alfalfa field. It's a taprooted plant with a very vigorous taproot. It does produce a lot of nitrogen. It uses a lot of nitrogen. You know, that's how they get 4, 5, 6 cuttings a year. You can almost watch it grow. It feeds itself. It's pretty amazing. But one of the things that Craig Witt from Full Circle Compost shared with me, he came out and looked at my garden and we did soil tests and walked around and had a great time, is he said, you know, you're going to always have alfalfa, but, and we do a little bit of tilling. We try and not till, but he's a no-till guy, but he said, you know, I'd take that 2-bottom plow that I see sitting out there, set it down about 8 inches and cut off those tap roots. It also incorporated those very mature alfalfa plants. It incorporated the plants into the soil, and cutting off that taproot on those mature plants, we had a little of alfalfa in our garden instead of a little garden in our alfalfa, which I think would have been the case had we not gone through with the 2-bottom plow. And it worked really well. And so that alfalfa is a great cover crop. You know, we grow it here at my home. We graze it even during the summer with sheep, and it's great for the soil. The tap roots are great for the soil. It attracts a lot of pollinators. It's a home to ladybugs. They help the garden next door considerably. So, and it's a wonderful way, as Rodney was saying, to prepare your soil for some other type of production.
And if I can add, it grows well in Nevada. Not all of the available cover crops that are at our fingertips that you read about can withstand the high pH soils and our extreme of circumstance. So it's a good one. It's a good choice to go to. I have a question on alfalfa. Has anybody tried to grow? I know, you know, alfalfa is a perennial, but apparently there are annual varieties. Has anybody grown annual alfalfa? Oh, and the other thing I would add to alfalfa is you have to get the right type of seed for your area. So if you're higher in elevation, you got to get an alfalfa that can withstand your cold seasons and your if you're in a harsh cold environment, some alfalfas do better and overwinter better than others.
Okay, thank you.
Your seed guy will know wherever you buy your seed from, a local seed supplier. They'll know what variety you need.
We actually have an alfalfa, I think it's an alfalfa farm just south of our property. So maybe I'll go down there and talk to them.
Yeah, ask the farmer there what variety he uses. Absolutely.
And thank you so much, everybody. That's great discussion. Rodney's comment on what would do differently if you started the farm over again made me think that would be a really great conversation to have. So maybe if the three of you, and starting with Ray, if there's one thing you would have done differently, or something that you did change over the years that you realized had been an error, I think that'd be something that's helpful for everyone on the phone, on the call, on the phone.
You want me to
Yeah,
start?
I think. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah,
Ray.
if you don't mind, Ray.
Okay, okay. What I think I said before is we started here 36 years ago. It was solid sagebrush, and we cleared a quarter acre at a time. Just trying to get started. And we had a source of organic manure that was excellent. It was goat and sheep manure, and we had llama manure also available. And so we used that once we cleared the area to help that soil. And I would recommend anybody starting from scratch, don't bite off more than you can chew. Quarter acre was all we could muster at the time, dollar wise and time and effort. So take it easy and plan it out. And of course, that manure going back into the ground is just a godsend. It really is. That's one of the things that really helps. My manure source has dried up, so that's why I'm into cover crops. And, believe me, it's not cheap. It costs. So that's about all I can throw out there at the time.
Thank you. Rodney or Rob?
Go ahead, Rob.
We were fortunate 15 years ago when we started market farming to be able to work with the Litzingers. Mr. Johnson came out. Both of those families were pioneering Nevada organic farmers. And that really helped us a lot.
Great opportunity to plug also that if you are a beginner farmer looking to develop your organic practice, you can sign up to be a mentee.
Indeed. Yes, you can. And we can set you up that way. So yes, you can get a hold of me if you're interested in transitioning to organic farming. That's my day job or my other day job. Farming is a day job too. But anyway, one of the things that we've done is we still grow a lot of variety, and everything that we grow, at least somebody in the family enjoys eating. My kids don't like kale or arugula, but everything else is pretty fair game. And we started out, we grew some things that we didn't enjoy, we didn't like, that we found some things that weren't well suited. And you want to enjoy what you're growing. You want to be able to take it in and eat it while you're working and look at it and appreciate it. And so one of the things, and you don't know what those are until you do it, but make sure that what you're growing is something that you're interested in, something that you're willing to give your time and affection to. Because if it's not, it's just a money maker. And at least for me, that wasn't enough to endure the toil of farming was what little profit there is in it. It has to be something that you enjoy. And so that's one of the things that, like we learned about corn. It takes a lot of acres. We leave corn up to Mr. Latin and the workmans and people in Fallon that have 100-acre field of corn, because it takes a lot of acres of corn. We enjoyed eating it, but 30 minutes into a market, it was all gone for the season. And you can do a lot better if you're using that square footage or acreage in your market garden for something that will continue to produce more than one harvest that's gone in just a fleeting instant, really. And so those are some things that we learned. And and I like dirt. I like open dirt because I like the creatures that live in the dirt. Weeds, we're growing in old pasture land. The seed bank is a century old, and grass likes high tunnels as much as vegetables, we've found. So don't be bashful about being aggressive with your weed mitigation and using cover crops and tilling them in and using black plastic to help that stuff speed up the decomposition process. It's trying to have open dirt is really a challenge. It's labor intensive. And so, that's, if I had to go back, even a year ago, I would be more aggressive with using weed barriers.
I agree with both of what you said, and one of the things that come out that Ray said was don't overdo what you can really manage. And but I was in a situation where I was so far away from my market that I had to be able to produce large enough quantities to be able to afford to make that trip to Las Vegas. And I'm still in that situation. And so I had to kind of go big because I didn't have farmers to share transportation with, um, and to get crop moved. So, um, so somewhere in there, there's a balance. I still have, I still grew faster than I have been able to keep up. So, I have more structures than what I'm actually using at this time. But as my market grows, I have the space to grow with the market.
Do we have any other questions from the group? That last comment about gain to market was something that was interesting to me. One of the other projects we're working on here at DFI is the Regional Food Business Center, and so trying to connect those middle market producers to the food system businesses. So maybe if no one else has any question, because I do want to let the conversation as much be guided by folks who are in production. I don't think any of my corn fertilized. My tomatoes are doing great, but it's too hot, so I'm not getting any fruit. So I'm not the one to talk about that. But if we don't have any other questions from the productions, I wondered if y'all could talk about that kind of market connection aspect. How much does the farmers markets versus direct consumer, any kind of value added products that you work with or value added producers that you work with, because of course, it's farming is more than just the actual production of the crop. It's got to get sold somewhere. So again, unless anyone else has a question, would be great to hear from that. Oh, and first, while you're thinking on that, since we're able to talk about shade cloth before, is anyone using shade cloth, and maybe specifics on that to protect crops from heat and sunburn?
Yes, I use a lot of shade cloth. Pretty much all the houses I'm growing in have shade cloth on them right now. So I start pulling shade cloth on top of the plastic in June. And it varies depending on the intensity of how intense summer comes on, and then I'll start pulling it off in August. And it allows me to grow greens longer into the summer and then start greens earlier in the summer, if that makes sense. So basically, there's like 6 to 8 weeks in the dead of summer between mid July, or excuse me, mid June to mid August. That it's really hard to grow greens even with the shade cloth. But with the shade cloth on, it just extends my season. And then I pull the shade cloth off, and then that extends me into the fall or allows me to plant sooner in the spring. So shade cloth is a really big help. Some plants just grow tremendously well in shade cloth. Beets, you'll have the best beet greens, and they'll be 1.5 feet long, and because they're kind of stretching for light, but they're just beautiful. And it also keeps the leafhopper insect out, which affects and causes oh, somebody help me. What's this? A mosaic virus, I think.
Tomato mosaic. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
beet virus, curly top.
Yeah, curly top. There we go. So I don't have any I can't grow a beet outdoors at all. I don't even try anymore. But in shade cloth, I can grow beets, and the prettiest beets you've ever seen.
And Jessica is asking about using it over fields and not over hoop houses. I don't think I've ever seen that, but
No,
I've pulled shade cloth. So, Nevada, one of the first or second things behind our gaming industry you think about is wind in Nevada. As a farmer, that's probably the first thing you think about. So, often we lose plastic, and if I don't have the funds to pull new plastic on, I'll pull shade cloth on and grow a crop under the shade cloth. So
Rodney, I'm doing the
yes,
same
sir.
thing.
Yeah.
I lost the top off 2 hoop houses. And they're about $1,200 a piece, and that's not in the budget yet.
Right.
So, but she
Keep
asked about growing in the field, and I wanted to comment on that because I have done that. I've done that with the low hoops, and I've grown lettuce in the field. We would start lettuce, early in the season in the hoop houses, but it was always bolt on us about the 1st of August. And in fact, it bolted already. But what we found out in the field with the low hoops, we could grow the lettuce under 80% shade net. Now, keeping the shade net on those wire hoops is another story. But some people use dirt to keep it down. I use bricks. Seems like I had a extra supply of bricks, so I put the shade net on over the hoops, bricked it all down, and about 90% of the time it stayed there. Not all the time. Sometimes I'd have to go out there and put it back on. But the crop underneath that 80% shade net was very good. Very good lettuce, did not bolt. And, I had lettuce for market all summer with that method. I have not been able to do that this year, but it does work. And when I talk about 80% shade net, I want everybody to understand that shade net comes at different percentage. The 80 on our hoop houses, I only use 40% shade net. It seems to let enough light in and still keep the temperature down. But out in the field, the 80% was what was needed because of the intensity of the sun. I would love to do it again. Not this year.
We use shade cloth as well. All of our high tunnels in the summer have 40-50% shade cloth on them. And we start as early with our greens as early as April. And I don't know, I've often wondered what the difference is. We're quite a ways north of Caliente, but we still notice a decline in our greens in April going into May. So we put that shade cloth up and it stays on into September. And then our tomatoes, our peppers, we all grow under shade cloth as well. I've tried it in the field, and Dayton is about as windy as Washoe Valley. We cannot keep anything in place if it's not inside a high tunnel, and so we've quit using it in the field. But shade cloth is a great thing, and it's also working in an uncovered or unshaded high tunnel during this kind of weather. You know, it's 106, 107 outside. It's well over that if you don't have shade cloth. It's 120 plus. You don't get fruit set. It stresses your plants out. It increases your watering needs. So the shade cloth really helps mitigate a lot of that. And you know, the humidity in there is obviously higher, but the shade cloth is a huge benefit. We work with shade cloth a lot. It also keeps the peppers from getting sunburned.
And what I would add to what you're saying is, by the time you build a structure or use the material to build a structure to hold your shade cloth in place in a field, you might as well use the NRCS hoop house program and build a hoop house, and then so you can have something to hold your shade cloth down with. So you'll spend a lot of money trying to keep shade cloth secure in a field.
I have to agree with you, Rodney. It was a
Yeah.
daily task, putting it back on, putting the bricks back on it.
Yeah.
So I have one more question regarding this. Does anybody know if any, because I know we have a lot of small grape growers here in northern Nevada. Does anybody know if they're also using shade cloth over their vineyards during this extreme heat, or is that not your guys' expertise?
It's funny you ask. I have hoop houses that I decided that I would put grapevines in, and we're on our third year, I believe, and two of the houses have shade cloth and two of them don't. One of the things that I have noticed, and I'm gonna mitigate that this year by removing the shade cloth, is that the grapes in the shade cloth didn't quite get the energy they needed to produce the sugar, so the fruit wasn't as sweet. But the plants were healthier. And so I'm all for growing grapes in hoop houses and using shade cloth to help them through the summer, but pulling it off so they can get the light they need to make the sugars and sweeten the fruit.
It's really interesting. I would not have expected that. I wondered if anyone else has any experience with that. I know DFI has been involved with some of the grape work before. I don't think they use shade cloth though.
Yeah, with the shade cloth, the plants are just less stressed, and you end up with these light, gigantic leaves. So I'm still experimenting with it, trying to figure out exactly what is best. Some of the varieties don't seem to be affected as much, and they still produce sweet fruit. Other varieties, especially the later ripening varieties, the fruit isn't as sweet. So I'm hoping that by removing the shade cloth and then being able to build those sugars will help.
Terrific. Since we've had some time to think about it, if anyone has insights or suggestions on the market access and the value add, are there people that you work with, to process any of your goods or to bring them up, so you're able to get a little bit higher return on that?
Well, I guess with my greens, things that I bag greens in half-pound bags, I guess that kind of is a value added, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
So I guess all the greens that I produce are value added. I, you know, we talked a little bit about this, and I wanted to get back to it, and that's, market reach, and you're talking about you're trying to put together a regional food movement. We're Alex Pope at Eco Greens and I are really trying to work on that. He's putting he opened a grocery store, tries to buy local. He does drive up to Reno. He utilizes what he can get out of our region in California and Utah for fruit and other vegetables. He's at my place twice a week to pick up right now fresh tomatoes and squash. But he's also putting in a kitchen. And he's hoping to have that up by mid August. And he basically he wants zero waste. If he doesn't sell it, he's going to find it, put it in his kitchen and use it in some capacity. And so I'm excited to see that. Any help we can get from our northern farmers and northern universities, we would just love. Alex and I feel very alone. We don't have a lot of support in the South, and we would love to have some support, advice, whatever support you have available to help us build this regional, southern regional co-op, for the lack of a better word. He's really been stretching himself pretty thin. I mean, he'll drive to Pahrump and pick up a few eggs and cost him $200 and pick up $25 in eggs, kind of a thing, just to try to help support the farmers and keep them going. He really believes in it and wants local products as much as possible. So
we'll definitely have to connect on this with that afterwards.
Yeah.
That's what this
Please.
program. It's a USDA funded program, so definitely what they're trying to encourage.
Yeah, I think for the South, that's what kills our farms, is moving product around. Everything is 150 miles away or so to better markets for my farm, and it's true for what was the gentleman that was named that was growing in Kyle Canyon? Kyle Cox.
It's Kyle. Yep.
Yeah. Moving to getting connected to markets is because the markets in Vegas are so tight, right? Millions of pounds of produce get sold on a weekly basis in Las Vegas, and so it's hard to compete, and we got to work together in order to do it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's my spiel. Sorry.
No, that's exactly what we're happy to hear. Thank you. Robert Ray?
We have not done a lot of value added products other than, like Rodney was saying, we increased the value of our greens by selling it not only in bulk, but we package it in half-pound bags and sell a lot of our greens that are bunched and bagged. And being a family farm that grows a lot of products, and then our ranching side of things takes a lot of time. We've talked about there's a lot of potential on a lot of farms for value added products, whether it's sauces, preserves, pies. You know, Mr. Latin did a lot of that there and still does. Bean does through their farm stand in Fallon, where they use the products that come out of their field and they increase the value of those by producing a finished product in a pretty jar with a nice label. And so we've talked about it as far as we've ever gone, just because of the time and in the investment involved in doing it at a large enough scale to make it profitable. But I think for any small farm, there's potential to increase the value of your raw product. And, you know, and that's basically keeping more of the food system alive within your operation, really, and not having your product go necessarily to someone who makes a burrito or a sauce or a salad with it. And so it helps you realize more of the potential value of your product by doing it that way. But it's for us anyway, it's just too time intensive.
Jordan,
Yep,
I would like to jump in on this one.
please.
The family farm, and I think we're talking to other people out there that the family farm is where they're at this time. I don't think we're talking to mega farmers on this site at all. The potential is there, and I say that because in years past, this family farm survived on the concept of value added. And of course, my wife Virginia was the one who really pushed that and was able to do that at farmers markets. She was able to do it elsewhere. She had the ability to really push that value added. I don't have that ability myself. So that's kind of lost here at this time. But in a family farm situation, that's how you survive. I think anyway. We made jams, you know, our products. We did different things with different products at farmers market. You know, it was just kind of amazing of what you could do. You really put your mind to it and think about it. Because the value added is usually something that is unique, especially at a farmer's market. And I suggest that people that are in the family farm situation pursue that. And you can go to Google, you can go, anywhere and find all these different ideas of how to use products. And, it's not just, slapping the beans out there in a box anymore. You can do an awful lot with the different products. And you have the help today with Google. I had to go to an encyclopedia 36 years ago, but today it's a lot easier. And that's what I'd like to add to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Ray. And it is really a big change in terms of the access of information. And so if anyone, watching this in the future, there is the Regional Food Business Center. And so if you do see this and you want more information, please email me at jordanh@unr.edu, and I can get you connected for anyone who might be watching this now or watching this after the recording's done. So we have about 5 more minutes in our time. Thank you, everyone. This has been some really great conversation. I do want to just get back to the group again and check if there's any final question for our farm talkers from the group. Anyone, please don't hesitate to ask, because otherwise I'm gonna ask more cover crop questions, because that is my passion. So please, someone. Where can I get a Farm Talk shirt? Yes, we are gonna have to be designing those because I think this is going great, and maybe we can make that happen. Just have to make sure NPR doesn't get upset if we copy that logo.
Jordan?
Yes,
can
right?
Can we do a kind of a quick survey of our followers, so to speak, whether or not they participate in farmers market, to see kind of where they're at and all.
Absolutely. If everyone wants to maybe raise your hand in the chat, or with the Zoom controls reactions, if you participate in farmers markets, or unmute yourself and chime in. I know Lindsay and Jolene do. Desert Farming Initiative does.
Markets are difficult, but I might do 1 or 2 a month. And I wish I could do more. I enjoy markets. They're hard reach for us right now.
Yeah, everything is spread out here, so that makes it challenging. Kyle, you were gonna chime in?
Yeah, I don't do markets right now. Right now, we're just currently selling to people we know, and we have an online form, and we try to direct people to that through our Instagram account. So we're trying to build that up and market a little different way. We do have drop off points, but a couple of market operators are not our favorites, so we'd rather stay away from them.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
I would really like to connect with you. I'm going to leave my phone number and email address in the chat.
Okay.
And the next time I'm in Vegas, I'd really like to stop by your farm, take a tour, see what you're doing. And I really want to be very supportive of new farmers.
Awesome.
They're really important. They're really important to me. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This is really oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and Kyle, if you could text me back, then I'll have your number. That would be great, so we can connect.
Will do.
Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say our primary sales outlet is the farmers market. Lonnie has a scale and a cash box. I have a scale and a cash box, and that we do a lot of volume there. Lonnie does twice the volume that I do, and it's because I just relish the opportunity to visit with our customers. The customers who want to visit come to me. The ones who want the express lane, they go to Lonnie. They get a good, polite, good morning, how are you? Have a great day. But farmers markets, I just love them. They're a blast.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just wonderful to connect with the people and get feedback for all the hard work you've been doing. That gets me going to the next time. Yeah, I love farmers markets. I really do.
Great. Well, thank you everyone so much. We're right at time. This has been a really terrific conversation. I really appreciate all of the engagement from the audience and the expertise from our farm talkers. We will get working on those t-shirts, and then for everyone's awareness, in 2 weeks, at same time, same place, we will have another one of these. So have your questions ready. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Jordan.
Hey, Thanks. I didn't realize I had my chat connected to just one person.